Good morning from the Freedom of Information and Privacy Association. I'm Patrick Farnsworth, and this is your Access and Privacy Online News Summary for Saturday, July 12th. We're heading into the full summer season here, and while you're hopefully enjoying the sun where you are, we'll start with the access to information and privacy scans across Canada. There are some troubling environmental impacts as one oil company breaks a deal and another has documented ties to a provincial government. Plus, there's a reminder that drone operators can face charges if they don't respect people's privacy. We have a few stories from south of the border with the FTC blocking efforts to make it easier for people to unsubscribe, and one state making changes that could impact the privacy of donors to charities. We'll wrap with a troubling report that intersects your travel data and data brokers, and learn about recent steps in Alberta to increase understanding of new access and privacy laws in the province. Let's dive in. We begin in BC, where Matt Simmons, LJI reporter, and Zach Viscara from the Narwhal and the Investigative Journalism Foundation bring us a report where Canadian Natural Resources Limited failed to meet commitments to deactivate thousands of old oil and gas pipelines and face few consequences. Documents obtained under Freedom of Information legislation in BC reveal smaller feeder pipelines are supposed to be decommissioned when the wells they connect to more major pipelines no longer produce gas. Companies are required to decommission these pipelines within 18 months. In 2020, the BC Energy Regulator found CNLR hadn't deactivated thousands of pipelines, and the company continued to operate them without facing enforcement action. A subsequent cleanup plan was put in place, but the company has failed to act on it. It is unclear why the company failed to meet the requirements for deactivating its pipelines, including failing to follow its own plan. The company did not respond to multiple requests for comment made via email and over the phone. It all raises serious concerns about environmental oversight and corporate accountability. From Manitoba, Maggie McIntosh, LJI reporter at the Winnipeg Free Press, brings us details from access to government records detailing the NDP government spent $94,000 promoting a school nutrition program, mostly through social media ads targeting parents and educators. While the initiative itself has public support, the promotional spending, especially during tight budget cycles, raises questions about government messaging and priorities. In the end, the Canoe government spent more money promoting its universal school meal program this year than it did feeding students in some small divisions, though some argue the funding is meant to ensure every student can access a free snack at school when they are hungry without question. In Quebec, the province's language watchdog has softened its stance on English terms in public signage. After an uproar over banning phrases like "Go Habs Go," the agency now says such expressions can remain, provided they don't advertise products or services. The reversal followed a public outcry right before the Montreal Canadiens' first playoff home game, when the Montreal Gazette reported how the transit agency had replaced "Go Canadiens Go" with "Allez Canadiens Allez" to stay on the watchdog's good side. This marks a notable retreat in enforcement and shows how public pressure can shape language policy. The language office did report a few complaints over the word "go" being used in the past to comply with language laws. Turning to Ontario, Celeste Percy-Beauregard, LJI reporter at the Hamilton Spectator, dives into the data obtained through requests and identifies an important outlier. One school board went from having the highest number of student exclusions to 0 in just a year. Exclusions refer to sending students home without formally suspending them. While the change looks positive, the rapid shift has left parents and advocates wondering whether exclusions are still happening, just not being tracked or reported. To work around tracking exclusions, schools may suggest a modified schedule, which would include less class hours. While this is still an exclusion, it may not be tracked as such. Also from Ontario, newly released documents show Premier Doug Ford had daily contact with Enbridge during a major natural gas project. Records obtained via access to information point to unusually close coordination, including direct phone calls. The documents also revealed that some government officials were acting as liaisons for the company and the public, with one bureaucrat having contact with Enbridge on a daily basis. This raises red flags about the independence of decision-making and the role of fossil fuel companies in shaping provincial energy policy. And finally, in Newfoundland, a salmon advocacy group says aquaculture companies are stashing plastic waste along the coast instead of cleaning it up. Photos and reports submitted to the Federal Environment Department show bags of plastic tubing and debris hidden in woods and coves. The group argues this violates regulations and harms marine ecosystems. The Atlantic Salmon Federation is calling for the federal fisheries minister to halt aquaculture expansion in the province until the companies get their waste under control. Now to Canadian stories tied to privacy. In two stories from Maggie McIntosh, LGI reporter at the Winnipeg Free Press, in Winnipeg, online schools are replacing bricks and mortar but racking up higher online monitoring costs. InformNet is the province's largest online school, and it is spending over $200,000 a year to detect AI-assisted cheating. The program doesn't require anything to be downloaded onto the student's computer, but they do require a microphone, video camera, and internet connection to participate. While discipline is decided on a case-by-case basis, students are generally given a 0 if academic misconduct is discovered. The school is investing heavily in software to spot ghostwriting and generative AI use by students. But it raises broader concerns. How much surveillance is too much? And what data is being collected to flag cheating? Meanwhile, a former university regent resigned, citing governance concerns, including the handling of personal information. She warned the University of Winnipeg's board lacked transparency and accountability, particularly around privacy issues. The regent refused to share her resignation letter, but multiple current regents told the Free Press they've been hearing increasingly from community members who are frustrated by a perceived lack of transparency related to decision-making. The incident highlights growing tension around university governance and public trust. And in Toronto, a man has been charged with voyeurism after allegedly using a drone to spy on two women through condo windows. The man has been charged with secretly observing and recording a person expecting privacy and harassment by watching and besetting. The case is a stark reminder that drone operators can and will face criminal charges if they violate people's privacy. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission has blocked a proposed click-to-cancel rule aimed at making it easier for consumers to unsubscribe from services. The rule would have forced companies to provide a simple, one-click option to cancel subscriptions, cutting down on confusing menus and retention tactics. According to the FTC, a procedural error was made by failing to come up with a preliminary regulatory analysis, which is required for rules whose annual impact on the U.S. economy is more than $100 million. Originally, the FTC thought the impact would be less than $100 million. The decision to block it is being criticized as a win for corporate interests over consumer rights. At the same time, North Carolina's governor appears to have vetoed a bill that would have shielded the identities of donors to charitable organizations. The proposed law was pitched as a privacy measure, but critics said it would have made political dark money harder to trace. The veto reflects ongoing tension in the United States over how to balance donor privacy with transparency in political financing. If you've flown recently, your travel data might be in places you didn't expect. A new report from the Electronic Frontier Foundation shows that data brokers are selling flight information to U.S. immigration agencies like U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. The Airlines Reporting Corporation, a data broker owned and operated by at least 8 major U.S. airlines, was taking customers' domestic flight information and selling it to government agencies. That includes not just passenger names and flight paths, but also payment and location data. The findings underscore how weak regulation of data brokers can expose travelers to surveillance without their knowledge. And to wrap up our week, in Alberta, the province's Information and Privacy Commissioner has released an early assessment of new access and privacy laws. The commissioner says the new legislation, so far, shows promise, but also needs more clarity to be effective. The report identifies both progress and gaps, especially in how public bodies interpret their new obligations. As the province continues rolling out changes, education and enforcement will be key. The Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner, or the OIPC, said it will continue to monitor how the laws affect privacy and access to information rights of Albertans, and will continue to voice its views for months and years to come. As always, we hope you found today's stories helpful in staying informed about the latest issues surrounding privacy, information management, and public transparency. To help us keep the mics on, be sure to subscribe through FIBA News Monitoring or consider a donation. Our writer is Sean Fisk. Original music in today's show is composed by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. I'm Patrick Farnsworth, your host and producer. Thank you for joining. A big FIBA thank you to all the contributors, reporters, and outlets that make this podcast possible, and you, our listeners, who help make this successful. Stay safe and stay informed.